So I'm going to walk in front of this thing because we have a projector here, but I'll do my best here. But a little over a year ago, Mickey and I were roaming the halls of Marketo, wondering what we wanted to do next. And we started thinking about, we both wanted to solve a new problem and solve an interesting business problem for companies. And so as we looked to our own product organization, especially around the areas of adoption, we started to see something very interesting. First of all, sales organizations for a long time have had their own systems. Marketing teams now have their own systems, but product teams generally did not. And so when you think about that, one of the most important aspects of a business's growth equation, of a SaaS business's growth equation, was being left out, and that's the product itself. And sure, product teams have a lot of tools. We all use a lot of tools here for issue tracking, for bug tracking, for UX, and all of these sorts of things that we do on a daily basis. But when it really comes to understanding the behavior of your users inside of your product, and being able to influence that behavior to get them to the aha moment that we've talked about more quickly, that ability to do that on a consistent basis has not been had. And so today is really about sharing with you what we've learned and talking about some of the concepts that we're developing and applying at Aptrinsic. So I'm going to do a quick introduction on myself. A lot of you guys here don't know me, but I just spent the last 7 years at Marketo, and that was just an amazing experience for me. And I learned so much there from the CEO, Phil Fernandez. And for those of you who know, I learned a bunch of stuff from Phil I never wanted to learn, but nonetheless, he's an insanely brilliant guy, and he taught me so much. And I take a lot of the learnings that I got from him and from Marketo and applying them at Aptrinsic. Okay, it's important to note that I'm mostly an engineer, and I really, really get off on the fact that people come to me and say, well, I love that product, I love what you're doing, I love what you built, and hearing those kinds of things really fuel me. But it's also important to note that I'm also an introvert, so for your introverts in the audience, you know how hard these events are on us, so I'll probably be passed out in the corner over there later, but you can come find me. And man, when people tell you time flies, you better believe them, because I was thinking about something to share on a personal level with you guys, and I realized I was going to be 50. And I started thinking about, what the hell does it mean to be 50? And I started looking around and paying attention. And I noticed, everyone in the room was younger than I was. That was one thing I noticed. I said, this really sucks, because in your head, you think you're 25 still. And then I'm actually going to partner meetings with venture capitalists now. I'm actually still the oldest guy in the room now. And these guys are actually younger than me in this room. So it really freaking sucks, right? I mean, it's and then we have our team visiting here from Israel, and I take one of the guys from Israel to lunch. And at lunch, he goes, we got to the subject of age. I don't even know how we got there. But he goes, Jesus, you're half my, I'm half your age. And I'm like, screw you, man. I can still outcode you. No, but anyway, he's a hell of a guy. But it's this whole getting old thing. I'm going to fight it as long as I can, I think. So Aptrinsic was founded on the basic premise that customer expectations are changing. That the influences of B2C that we have from a consumer perspective that we have put on a daily basis are starting to bleed into the business world and the way we think about buying and consuming business software. And so much so that what we're kind of seeing is a consumerization effect happening in SaaS businesses. And what we're seeing is nearly 60% of the buyers that are coming to your website don't even really want to talk to a sales guy anymore, which is kind of interesting if you think about it. That's sort of the B2C kind of bleeding into B2B. And these are Forrester numbers that we're showing you here. We also noticed that almost all the users that are coming to your site, or all the customers and prospects that are coming to your website, are already educated really, really well, either through your own thought leadership, your competitors' thought leadership, or through G2 Crowd, Trust Ratings, all these things that we know about that make them some of the most knowledgeable buyers that we've ever seen before. And so it's no wonder that nearly 3/4 of them are wanting to buy products now from your, in a more convenient from your website directly. And so this is happening today, and these are numbers that Forrester's put up here. So why is this happening? Why is this relevant today? What's been happening in industry that's making this relevant today? And I thought it'd be interesting to look at the evolution of SaaS to sort of talk about that. We do this in the book as well. So if you look at reading the book, we sort of make reference to this. But if you think about the SaaS 1.0 era of companies that were developed, the Salesforces, the company Portera that I came from, all of those companies that originally were really hyper-focused or mostly focused on taking the system of record from on-premise and moving those into the cloud. CollabNet was one of them. Bill Portelli is here, another boss of mine that was the CEO of CollabNet's here. And during that time, as a SaaS company, we were hyper-focused on, security, infrastructure, all the things that came along with that first wave of SaaS businesses that were happening. And so, we started to see that happen, continuously, that they weren't really focused on a lot of the stuff. But the other thing they were focused on was feature parity with the on-premise systems that they were trying to move into the cloud. And as we matured a little bit, and we started seeing the SaaS 2.0 companies come out, the Marketos of the world, and all the companies that came out of that era, we started seeing companies take advantage of the internet a lot more. And started doing, the ability to use the internet to improve collaboration, to improve business processes, to improve the ability to make things better started to be seen. And during this time, what we started seeing is a lot more companies competing on the number of features they had, and the pricing of their products, and all of those things that happened during the SaaS 2.0 era. And what we're loosely calling, currently calling the SaaS 2.0 era, what we're saying is that it's no longer that you can compete on just features and price alone. Anyone can copy your features, and with today's development practices, they can do that very quickly. And anyone can copy your pricing models. And if you don't think your competitors know your pricing model, you should think twice, because those things can be copied. And in this new SaaS era, what we see happening is that people are going to want to differentiate on something different. What we believe that differentiation is going to come from is from the experience that you're providing your customers from end to end, including the experiences that your products provide while they're using them. And so this is causing this sort of change to happen today. There's another interesting thing that's happened in SaaS businesses, and Marketo was no different here, that we had, when you get to scale, getting to CAC efficiency is a big deal. Now, if you're small like we are at Aptrinsic, probably the least thing that we're thinking about right now. But if you're Marketo, 6,000, 7,000 customers, CAC efficiency that's coming from sales, or customer acquisition cost efficiency that comes from sales, becomes a really, really important thing. And so I thought it would be interesting to look at what happened here. So during the SaaS 1.0 era, we're predominantly using a sales-led go-to-market model, where sales was essentially responsible for almost everything that happened during that sales cycle and the ability to get the product in. And as we matured into the SaaS 2.0 era, where companies like Marketo, HubSpot, Eloquaz of the world created this marketing-led go-to-market strategy, we started seeing people, use SDRs and getting those mass lead generation funneled down into qualified leads that you would hand over to sales. And we made some significant improvements to the efficiency of the customer acquisition cost efficiencies of most SaaS businesses. But if you were truly a SaaS business, it just wasn't enough. And so what we believe is happening in order to get to the rest of the CAC efficiency that these SaaS businesses need is this product-led go-to-market strategy is going to emerge more and more to help these customers do that. It's driven by understanding what the customers are doing inside of your product, and being able to generate the right product qualified leads from those behaviors that are happening inside of the product, and leveraging those to get your sales cycles more efficient. So what is a product-led go-to-market strategy, and what are product qualified leads? I mean, simply put, it's using your product, your SaaS products that you have, and leveraging them as a primary go-to-market channel, which we haven't done before, right? And today, we leverage the website, we leverage emails, we leverage all of these things in order to do that. But in this model that we're talking about here today, it's using the product as a primary up and front go-to-market channel. And there's some very real differences that happen in this product-led go-to-market model. The first one that I'd like to talk about is that in today's model, we spend a lot of time gating content, getting people to jump through hoops, to even look at demos, to all of these things that are to get to the product. And what we believe is going to change in this product-led approach is that companies are going to give access earlier to their customers and get them into the product sooner. And they're going to watch their behavior inside of their product and personalize the behavior based on the different people that are coming into your product. I may have, just like Ken was talking about, I may want to have a certain experience for my SMB market that is very different from my enterprise market. I may want to speak to different verticals in different ways when they're coming into my product, and show them those things. And so how do I do that? Being able to do that while they're in the product, not with emails and not with websites that are tailored for some of this stuff. It's while they're using it, they want to understand this information. In today's model, companies are very focused on the sales and marketing funnels. And it's interesting to think about that, because they're also hyper-focused on the size of these funnels. And if you think of the conversion from the top to the conversion rates that we're having right now, it's no wonder that they want giant top of funnel to be larger, because they're trying to get the leads to get the revenue, to get the numbers the way they want them, or where they need them to be, sorry. And what we see happening in the product-led model is customers are going to actually, start using the product, you're going to watch their journey, and throughout the life cycle, get the customer involved inside of the product from early on. And this whole, you still have to, you still have to generate awareness. You still have to be able to get people to come to your website and try your product, understand your messages, but it's that shortening that part of where they go inside of the product sooner and watching what they're doing inside of the product to get them to the next level. And lastly, then this one's what's interesting to me is that product teams today, and I know we're all sort of victims of this, and is that we're not really involved that much in the essential customer acquisition and retention that we should be. We have teams on both sides of us that essentially are working on acquisition and some that are working on retention, and we're somewhere stuck in between those. And what I see happening and what's warming my heart is that product teams are going to become more and more important to this acquisition and retention strategy going forward. I think that customers today are suffering a little bit because the product teams don't feel like they have ownership to this. And I think for the first time, we're going to see that finally the connection between marketing, product, and sales that we haven't had before, all focused on getting growth and getting acquisition and retention to happen together. And so so how do I go about implementing a product-led go-to-market strategy? What's involved? There's a lot of stuff we've written in the book that you can reference, but at the base of this strategy is having a unified view of your customers' data. And lots of you guys here have a lot of analytics tools and have lots of data, but what we typically see today from our current prospects and people that we're talking to is it's void of two very key data sets. One, it's void of the customer's behavior, the feature usage, how they're actually behaving inside of what are they doing inside of the product, and being able to have that data. And second, it's the data that comes from production. So for Marketo, it would be something like how many emails were sent by this customer, how many emails did they create, how many campaigns were run by that customer. All those capabilities of understanding where is the user in their journey for their product, and being able to use that data is important. So at the heart of this strategy is, at the heart of this strategy is being able to utilize this data that you now have, that now includes your behavioral data and your production data, and being able to engage your customer based on that data. Sort of like Ken was saying, where is my user in this journey? What type of user are they? What segment are they in? Being able to have that dialogue with your users while they're using the product is really what we're talking about here. That's very different and unique to us. And at the top of this period, just like we talked about earlier, is the ability to experiment. To run experiments to understand, am I converting more customers? Are more customers able to see the initial value of my product when they're using it? Are customers ready to consume additional products, or running the upsell, cross-sell motion? When do I do that inside of the product? Today, most people have these analytics, but they aren't able to run these drills and experiment with these drills to get people to the aha moments more quickly inside of the products that they have. And there's some very real benefits that come from a product-led go-to-market strategy that we believe. And first is getting increased adoption. So this is where we're a little bit different here, because adoption is important from the standpoint of engaged users is what leads to adoption. You don't just manage adoption. You don't manage acquisition. You have to get users engaged in what you're doing. And by getting them engaged and using more and more of it incrementally, you're going to get them to adopt the product by doing that. Second, we want to reduce the time to value. If we can get people into the product, more of them into the product, and reduce the time where they see the initial value and the aha moments in your product, you're going to ultimately be able to get more efficient in how you think about your go-to-market models for, how many SDR ratios do I need, all these types of things that happen by improving all of those types of metrics. And lastly, what we see is being able to make better product decisions. And as product guys, that's one of the most important things that we have with this type of a system. I have a CPO friend of mine that's in a company that is about ready to go public. And when he first started this company, one of the first things he talked to me about doing there is he started removing features from the product. And it scared the shit out of him, because he's like, I don't know everything about what's going on in the product. I don't know if I'm removing the right features. And one of the problems we have as product guys is we always want to put more stuff in, but we rarely think about, geez, this stuff's not getting used. Let's get this stuff out and make the system more easier to use, or people to understand it a lot easier. And so, if he had the ability to understand the behavior of their users, what they were using, and empirically know that certain features were not being used and be able to pull those features out, it would have made him feel a lot more comfortable with some of the changes that he made. Now, he made a lot of good bets, and some of them worked and some of them didn't, but something like this would have helped him a ton. And there's a few examples of companies that are doing this well. Google is an example of that. Even Box is an example of this product-led go-to-market strategy. They get you into the product sooner, and they actually watch what you're doing inside of the product, make sure you're going in the right direction. And if you're not, they adjust your course while you're doing that. But one of the companies I really like to talk about is Gusto. I'm a Gusto customer. When I started the company, I was putting in the employees, and it sort of led me through this progressive feature reveal and this onboarding process of getting my employees added, getting the bank added after that. Oh, you have 4 employees now. Do you need benefits? All of those things were happening as I was using the product, and being able to guide that journey, depending on where I am in my journey inside of that product, is really what we're talking about here. Slack is another one I like to use. Now, we all know about the hypergrowth that Slack went through, but that's not what I want to talk about here. Here, I want to talk about the fact that their onboarding and their ability to get you to initial value inside of the product more quickly is pretty interesting. Their ability to invite users, because you start out initially back in the day with Slack as an individual user that's trying to chat with your friend. And by the time you know, you're chatting with people from work. And then by the time you know, you're chatting with teams of people at your work. And then they proliferated that. And along the way, they had the onboarding of getting, they realized that, oh, I want to get some of these enterprise customers into the app. This is how I'm going to do it. And so they drove that behavior inside the product. Whether you knew it or not, they were doing that. And that's how you were getting more and more people into it, and how they got to where they are. So what I want to leave you with in closing is that your product is your best sales tool, and we want to help you unlock its potential at Aptrinsic by giving you the capabilities that we've talked about here today. All right, thank you.